Hi, so today we're going to make a botanical vase, just a tubular form. We're going to use a former, which is a tube, simple tube, and I've wrapped it with newspaper. I'd suggest that you give it several layers. So I've probably got 2 layers of newspaper and I'm doing the third one, making it nice and tight so that I can get a nice even layer with my clay. I'm pushing it in on one side and then I'm just going to twist it at the top so I can pull it out easily. Okay, so next thing, I'm making sure that I've got a piece of card that's the same width. Well, we want it to be a little bit deeper, wider than the tube so that you've got an overlap. So, slab of clay. This is white earthenware. I've got an earthenware kiln, so I tend to fire to that temperature at the moment, hoping to get a stoneware at some point. And then we're going to use some guiders and roll the slab nice and evenly. So what we want a slab that is the same or a bit bigger than our card template. Okay, so keep on rolling it, turn it round to make it a little bit wider. And then around again. I'm using these guiders that are quite thin actually, so I haven't got such a thick vase, probably about 1/2 centimetre width. Sometimes standing up to roll's a good idea. And then you're placing your card template on there. I'm going to give it one more roll to get it nice and even and slightly wider. Okay, so when you're happy with that, you can then place your card template onto your clay, and I usually make just a few markings on the clay just so I know where I'm working to with my botanicals. Right then, so I've got some pressed natural forms. That I'm going to be using. Just taking those and placing them on the clay. Get the selection. Probably best if these are nice and dry. And obviously you'll find ones that work better. It's good to experiment, try it in some little slabs. It's quite a popular technique this, so you will see this used quite a lot. So having a look at little examples that you could use is always good. But again, it's just about experimenting, trying things out. Okay, so when you've got those on, just take that and have a little look. Okay, so then you can roll them in nice and even. Try and avoid them jumping up and ending up doing a double print. You don't want them to move. Okay, and when you're rolling, obviously you want that nice smooth surface on the clay. And then you're carefully peeling them off. Now you might find that some bits of natural form kind of get stuck into the clay. That's not a problem, you can just dig that out. Obviously, ultimately when it goes in the kiln, that's going to burn out. But probably better if you don't leave that in. And then you're not going to get a smoky firing. And then we're placing this on the clay. I'm going to use my guider just as an extra straight edge, and then I'm using my potter's knife to cut nice and straight. And leaving my extras on the side because I might use those later to make some little test tiles. Not wasting anything. Just recently bought some nice clay from Pot Clay, so some hand building clay, which was a little bit more expensive, so I'm hoping it's got lots of plasticity in it, so that's going to help with making these particular forms. Okay, so I've got my slab ready, and the next thing I'm going to take my former. I'm going to decide which side I'm going to work to. Probably the side that's got more space, so I haven't got an impression. I want that as the under layer, the under sort of layer. So I'm going to start on this side basically, and I'm going to work where I've got, I'll show you in a minute, where I've got a little bit of clay overlap. Carefully here, because I don't want to stretch the clay, but you can see I've got a slight overlap here, which will help when I'm attaching the base. Okay, so I'm turning that round, I'm allowing the clay to kind of get into that form, and then what I'm going to do now is score cross hatching, and I'll do it on this side as well, so we'll get a really good connection. I'm doing this really to attach the clay to clay, and then I'm going to take some slip. So this is just liquid clay that's got just clay and water, nice and thick and gloopy. So I'm going to pop that in there, and then roll it round. Okay, and give it a little push. I think with these shapes the key is the less intervention the better. Okay, the more that you're kind of not handling it, the better, because you get that really nice crisp shape. Okay, so now I've got this space here, I can just gently press that down. Now I don't mind the fact that slightly higher at the top, I quite like that. Handmade form and all that. So I'm going to take my wooden tool next. Nice softish tool, not the metal tool. And this piece, this is really, really important. Just making sure that that clay is attached. Okay, so I'm gradually going to pull over tiny, tiny little bits of clay to just join those two sections together. So all the way down. Now at this point you might start saying, oh, it's getting a little bit messy. Okay, but not to worry, you can just take a bit of water, a tiny, tiny bit. You only want a very, very, just a moist sponge, not wet, not saturated, and all you're doing is dragging a little bit of that sponge over the top, and that's helping to kind of seal that down. Again, your fingers, really good tools to smooth that. Okay, right then, so we've got our spare clay that we had earlier. What we're going to do with that is roll that out a little bit more so we've got it wide enough. And you can always test this now by turning this over, scoring the base. Again, really important stage because we want to attach the clay to clay. Again, cross hatching. You can use different tools, like you can use a wooden tool to do this if you want to pushing down that newspaper because you don't want that being trapped. And then we're going to pop some slip on here. Over a bit. Okay, and then I'm going to pop that down. Now, this enables me to then have a bit of a sense of where the base is going to be, and I can just score that again as well. So again, I'm adding that extra key just to attach the clay to clay, and then I'm going to put an extra bit of slip on there. Okay, so placing that down, giving it a little bit of a push but not too much, because remember we don't want this to sort of start to sag, and then we're just going to carefully cut round. Now we're not going to do this all in one go, we're just going to do it in sections and take it away. Okay, so sections, and take it away, and then the last one. Last one. Okay. Right, so taking my wooden tool again, I'm going to just push or pull that clay up. So again, what I'm doing here is joining that clay to clay, and I'm going to try and not knock the impressions that I've done, just to try and keep those nice and crisp. I'm going to go around with that to just join those sections. Okay, so you can take your time with this, but equally this is always something that you can come back to when it's a little bit more leather hard. Okay, so sort of got that, a little bit of the water's evaporated out and it's a little bit firmer. And I suppose what this is about knowing what the clay can do. That sort of comes with experience, you know, knowing that if it is too soft, you might need to just get the hairdryer on the base, you know, just to dry it out a little bit more, bearing in mind that the clay is going to shrink. What you don't want to do is leave it on this former and then it shrinks, because then actually it's just going to crack. Okay, and that's why we've got the newspaper inside. I'll show you what we're going to do with that in a minute. Okay, so right then, now then, we're ready now to carefully take away that top layer of newspaper. And careful not to knock the clay, bearing in mind the clay is really soft at the moment. We don't want to lose any of our shapes. You know, not the end of the world if we do, we can always revisit it and neaten it up. And taking that newspaper off. Okay, so I've got my inner tube there, the inner section, that I should be able to just lift off, okay? So now I can leave this on just as a little bit of extra support while it's very soft at the moment, the clay, and also it helps me to lift it up and move it onto my board, which is what I'm going to do now. And there we have it. Now what I will probably do is, obviously when it's gone a little bit more leather hard, I'll take the newspaper out and then I will just spend some time going round and just checking that I'm happy with, I haven't got too many indentations. I might just use my finger to kind of smooth that as well, and just to neaten it up. But again, the less you mess with it, the better, really. Okay, and there we have it, a botanical tubular form, just in time for spring. Obviously going to be bisque fired, and then I will glaze it, and I usually glaze it using underglazes, colours, and then a transparent glaze at the top. And sometimes experiment with copper oxide that gives a kind of lovely green colour. Glazes sometimes as well. So it's just about experimenting and having some fun. Okay, enjoy.